farmers. Learning about the first farmers. The early humans led a nomadic life. They moved from one place to another in search of food. They had discovered how to light fire to cook their food, keep warm, and protect themselves from wild animals. Beginning of farming. Around 10,000 years ago, a huge change took place when early humans shifted from being hunter-gatherers to learning the growth of plants and domestication of animals. The first plants grown were those found in the wild. People collected seeds from wild plants and sowed them in the ground, dug with deer antlers. The next year, grains and other crops were harvested and used as food. So, they had learned how to farm. Later, the wooden plow was invented, which made farming easier. Once the early humans learned how to grow food, they left their nomadic life and settled down in one place. They built permanent houses. The farmers worked in the fields, and the women looked after the home. They stitched clothes from animal skins with bone needles. Later they learned to weave cloth. They wove grass to thatch their houses. They made baskets to store the grains and other things. The early man learned how to make clay pots and used these to store their extra grains. These people were the first farmers. Their farming settlements grew to become the first villages. These villages, in turn, became the first towns. The farmers also learned to tame wild sheep, goats, and wolves. Now, they no longer had to go hunting for their meat. Their animals gave them meat, milk, and wool. Perhaps the first animal to be domesticated was the dog. The invention of wheel. Early man traveled on foot and used animals to carry heavier loads. It is believed that he may have seen logs floating down a river. Though it was possible to use the rafts on the river, it was difficult to use it on land. Carts without wheels, known as sledges, were used on land. These were initially pulled by men and later by animals. Thereafter, early men may have noticed round objects rolling down the hills. This may have given them the idea of making small, round discs from the logs and used these discs to move the raft on land. Thus, the wheel was invented. The invention of the wheel was one of the greatest inventions ever. It greatly helped in the progress of man. Movement of people and goods became easier and faster. Historians say that the first wheel was the potter's wheel. This wheel was used to make clay pots. The first real wheel was found in Mesopotamia. Man could move long distances on carts drawn by animals. Later, chariots and coaches were made out of wood. Summary. From food gatherer, early man became a farmer. Early man learned to grow crops from seeds. He domesticated wild animals. He started living a settled life. Early man traveled on foot or used animals. Rafts and carts were used for transport. The invention of the wheel was one of the greatest inventions ever. That is all in this lesson, students. Farmers are very important people. Always respect them. It is because of their efforts we are able to get food, vegetables, and fruits. Good going!